All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to the first Money Talk Tuesday of the fall. This Money Talk is called Post-Secondary Pathways, and it'll focus on the different kinds of programs that high school students can pursue after they graduate. My name is Sarah Safi. I'm a program assistant with the Office of Economic Empowerment. Today, I'll just give you a brief presentation about our office, go over some housekeeping notes, and then we'll get right into the panel. At the end, we'll save some time for some audience questions. So to start, the Office of Economic Empowerment is a department within the Office of the Treasurer and Receiver General of Massachusetts tasked with supporting, advocating, and facilitating policies that empower all Massachusetts residents. Our programs serve women, families, high school students, veterans, and seniors. Our priorities include financial education, closing the race and gender wage gap, racial equity, college affordability, and promoting STEM education. Some notes about the Zoom format today. So as you may have noticed, this is a webinar and not a meeting. So you will not be able to view other participants and they can't view you. You should only be able to see this presentation, myself, and the other panelists. You can use the chat feature throughout the presentation to communicate with us. But if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function and we will get to those questions at the end. Once this webinar concludes, a survey will pop up on your screen. Please fill it out. It's only a few questions and it will really help us improve this program and our future events. If you're interested in attending any of our future Money Talks or any of the events that we hold through the Office of Economic Empowerment, you can visit this link, which will be dropped in the chat. If you would like to explore other financial topics that might be relevant to your life, you can visit us at myfinanciallifema.org. That's another program that we offer through OEE. And finally, for any questions or feedback about this event or other events that we have, you can email us at moneytalk@tre.state.ma.us. So that's my brief little presentation. And then we will shortly get into the panel. I just want to launch a poll really quick to gauge who is in our audience today. So let me just launch that. And I'll give you about 30 seconds to a minute to answer. Great, thank you all. I'm going to close the poll now. And then we'll get started with some introductions. So today we have representatives from Greenfield Community College, UMass Amherst, and my alma mater, Boston University. And I'm grateful for all of you for being here today. And I'm sure this is going to be a very informative and helpful conversation. So if you would all introduce yourselves, the institution you're coming from, and your professional role, and give us a bit of background, that would be great. We can start with Daryl.
Yeah, sure. First, thanks for having me. My name is Daryl Alisea. I am an assistant director for financial services and customer relations at UMass Amherst. I've been at UMass for about 3.5 years now. I also graduated from there in 2017. My main responsibilities, I would say, include overseeing the customer relations team for undergraduate admissions, which includes responding to inquiries of 40,000 or more applicants every year. So keeps us quite busy every single year. But I also do financial aid counseling, which is where I started at UMass. So most of the time when I'm doing that, it's sitting down with a student, maybe family or friends or another stakeholder for the student, and kind of guiding them through the financial aid process. And with that, I guess I'll pass it off.
Thank you. Diana, would you like to go next?
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Diana Abbott. I am a coordinator for the Women's Resource Center at Greenfield Community College. And what that basically means is that we are the human services hub for students We help with financial assistance. We help with resource referral and research and information, networking, um, life planning and coaching, and academic advising in our department. It's a two-person department, and we see a lot of students, especially in this last year and a half, helping with a lot of emergency basic needs. And we have a lot of really great donors to help us do that. So I really appreciate not having to search for it and being able to have it. So thank you. Now pass it on.
Thank you. Finally, we have Chris.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Down. I'm one of the Associate Directors of Admission at Boston University. This is my 16th year working in admissions at BU. My primary areas of responsibility really focus on the application process. And specifically, I oversee all of our merit-based scholarship programs at Boston University. From our outreach efforts to our selection, oversee the selection process for these awards, and then also work closely with the faculty or programs that exist to support these students when they come and enroll at Boston University. Additionally, all of us here in the admissions office at BU have sort of geographic regions of the country or the world that we work with. And I work with a number of communities in Eastern Massachusetts, Brookline, Newton, Weston, Wellesley, out to Natick, Framingham, Wayland as well. So sort of a, southern chunk of the Metro West area outside of Boston. So certainly I've visited a lot of students' high schools in the area, and also work with BU employees that have children applying and going through the college application process, and can be a resource for Boston University employees if any BU employees are joining or watching the webinar. Certainly one of my roles in the office is to act as a resource for BU employees thinking about the college application process as well. So thank you very much for having me, and look forward to the conversation today.
Thank you, and thank you all for being here. So we'll get right into the questions. I wanted to start off by asking about specifically four-year institutions. Pursuing like a four-year university degree has become increasingly normalized in recent years. And with that, the price of school has also really been skyrocketing. So you can all speak to this question, but for those of you specifically from a four-year university, could you explain what kind of financial assistance programs are available to students, whether it's aid, scholarships, or grants? And more specifically, how your institutions cater towards low-income students and maybe first-generation students as well.
So I'll start off with an answer for this. So quite a bit there to kind of look at. So at UMass Amherst, we use the FAFSA to drive all of our financial aid decision making, I guess I would call it. That's, I would say, and to emphasize, just the starting point. There's much that goes beyond that. But when it comes to the financial aid process itself, it is just based on the FAFSA. Some other schools might use something like a CSS profile, but essentially we're going to look at your FAFSA and create a financial aid package for you, especially if you're an in-state student. That's going to be based on federal financial aid, which could be something like a Pell Grant, which is probably the grant you're going to hear most about if you're kind of just reading about college costs or financial aid. We also will provide state grants to students and then institutional grants as well. So we try to use all three sources to provide as much for students as possible, but naturally there tends to be a gap for students that's left to cover. And with that, and especially in cases where we're doing outreach or presentations, we try to encourage students to look at scholarship options with like outside of the school financial aid process. But in terms of what else we can offer in terms of scholarships, when you apply to our school, every student will be considered for a merit scholarship, and those range in value. Specifically for our first gen low-income students, we have what we call the flagship award, which can go up to $10,000. So through the admissions review process, our first year staff and transfer staff are reading and evaluating these different applications and identifying students that they'd like to offer the scholarship for. And the goal of the scholarship is essentially to kind of close the gap between what the financial aid process can offer just by filing a FAFSA, and then what'll be left over for students to pay after the fact. We try to begin these conversations with students as early as possible, mainly because it involves a lot of financial planning, and we certainly don't want to leave it to the last minute. So we try to be there for students at the very beginning of the application process. There's a team in our undergraduate admissions office that actually identifies our low-income and first-gen students and provides them with special programming to kind of build that connection at a very, very early point and continue with them throughout the entire process and actually help them decide where they're going to go to school even. So we're there to act as a resource, act as a guide, and answer any questions that we can along the way.
Yeah, and to build off that, as Daryl mentioned, some colleges require both the FAFSA and CSS profile to apply for financial aid. BU is one of those schools. We do require 2 forms for students to apply for aid. But when students apply, we have a robust financial aid budget. BU right now has about a $380 million financial aid budget, and BU has committed to meeting 100% of the eligibility for financial aid for all admitted students if you're a U.S. citizen. So as Dario mentioned, that some colleges that make a small gap between sort of eligibility and aid. Some colleges maybe not. Across the sort of entire spectrum of 4-year colleges, you do see a range there. BU has committed to meeting 100% of the need or the eligibility for aid for admitted students, and the average financial aid package is about $58,000. So, as a private institution, the cost of attending BU is pretty high, like it is for many private 4-year colleges. But there is financial aid there, so don't let that cost of attending, or at least initial cost of attending, scare you away from applying and exploring financial aid options if you do find that school might be a good fit for you academically and socially. And then if you're admitted, you can explore the financial fit as well. I mentioned the large financial aid budget. About 92% of that budget at Boston University is geared towards need-based financial assistance. So funding that would be based on a family's eligibility for financial aid. About 8% of the financial aid budget is geared towards merit-based scholarships. And we have 2 merit-based scholarships that any student could be considered for. The Trustee Scholarship is a full tuition 4-year award. The Presidential Scholarship is a $25,000 4-year award. Both scholarships require that students submit their application for admission by December 1st. So pay attention. At some colleges, you may see an application deadline, but if you want to be considered for merit-based scholarships, some colleges do have earlier deadlines or different deadlines to be considered for those awards. So it's a good piece to pay attention to as you're applying to colleges. We also have a merit-based scholarship specifically designated for graduates of Boston Public Schools. So if there are any residents of Boston, students graduating from the Boston Public Schools, you can speak with your school counselor about our Menino Scholarship, named after former mayor of Boston, Thomas Menino. So we have a combination of merit and need-based financial aid available for students. I think one important piece as well is when students are offered a financial aid package, it is designed to be a 4-year award. Students only have to apply for financial aid one time as they're entering Boston University. After that, the students do not have to apply for aid every year, and the design is for those financial aid awards to be available to students for 4 years. Now, if students, Daryl also mentioned a couple of federal programs like Pell Grants or the loan programs. If students are pursuing those federal programs, they will have to submit that FAFSA form every year to maintain eligibility for those awards. And the process can be time consuming for students to apply for aid, and particularly for students who might be first generation of college. Our Newberry Center on campus is our center on campus to support students who are first generation in college. Now that could be by designing programming for financial literacy, for example, by supporting students as they are applying for different financial aid programs. Also, helping students navigate other processes whether it's, pursuing internships or, pursuing study abroad opportunities. Newberry Center also creates, community opportunities and opportunities for first generation students to connect with each other and find that support through mentorship programs as well. So, that Newberry Center certainly, our sort of, base for support specifically for students who are first generation of college, sort of regardless of what their needs may be. And currently about 18% of the students at Boston University are first generation in their family to attend college.
Great, thank you both for your answers. It really does sound like there are a lot of supports, particularly for low-income and first-gen students or students just trying to navigate the financial aid process. And it seems to be just a matter of getting the word out and making sure you're doing the right outreach to high school students so that they know that this information, this support is out there. So kind of building off of that question, a four-year college degree is definitely not the only pathway for students, nor does it have to be the first path that students pursue after they graduate. So Diana, I'm curious if you could explain the benefits of a community college degree or an associate's degree, and maybe in your answer kind of build in the definition of what a certificate program is versus an associate's program. And of course, you can speak on the financial benefits as well.
Well, that's a lot to start with. I will try my best. At GCC, being a two-year college, I think for me, what I've always seen, and I've worked for traditional colleges and 5 of them. So, and 2, this is one of 2 community colleges. So I understand very well what Chris and Daryl are explaining on a 4-year level. I think the difference with the associate's degree in the community college is that there's what I have seen is a much wider spectrum intergenerationally, because a community college will afford for community education, which is also a bridge as far as GCC is concerned. Our downtown center is where workforce and community education happens, but there are also programs that bridge into a full college degree program or certificate program at GCC. And I think that makes a difference with people who want to test the waters. A community college allows you, I think, a lot more of being able to test those waters, because we have a lot of students that start, find out whether this is working or it's not working, and it doesn't seem so big. They can get to people quicker because it's smaller. So I think students truly enjoy that. And we kind of turn around and set them up for coming to Chris and Daryl in that kind of way for a 4-year to finish the journey. What students tell me is one of the reasons that they come to a community college is the journey's big enough, the decision's big enough, but the journey doesn't look so big when they start. And we hope that with that could be a way for them to actually be able to come across the stage and finish in 2 years. A degree program has requirements as far as 60 credits. So actually credit bearing courses. A certificate may have some credit bearing courses also. A certificate is usually 6 months to a year. So that time difference is very appealing to a lot of people who come into a community college for a certificate. When we talk about different financial aid, as I said, I don't work in financial aid, but I work with a lot of finances for students. But what we are doing in our department is we're always connecting with admissions and financial aid so we can understand just where credits are to dollar value and that kind of thing when a student is I've got to pay tuition. I'm not really sure. And one of the things that I always say that I love about our financial aid, about the financial aid office, is I tell students that is the place where you learn how to take care of your academic business, the business of your academics. You need to understand, and that's what these people are going to be here to do. Um, so if you don't know about money, that's okay. That's what they're there for. If you don't understand how you're going to pay for the next semester, that's what they're there for. Um, and we have scholarships ourselves. GCC's foundation has about 50 endowed scholarships that students are eligible for once they come into their semester. They're a student. That following semester they can apply for these scholarships that will give them the money for the next one. So it's that kind of cycle that continues. And we have two programs specifically for high school students. One is the early transitions program, and the other is dual enrollment. The former is a special program with an agreement with Greenfield High School and Turner's Fall High School. And the other dual enrollment is open to all students outside of that. And that's the only difference. The ET, it's called ETP. The ETP program is just with those high schools, and dual enrollment is open to any high schooler. So that's the difference. But I kind of look at that as our kind of institution to your institution being that stepping stone to get that really good foundation overall. So that I do say this to students, and my dean is probably listening, and I may be fired, but I say this to students. I, you know, we're gonna make sure that you're stable enough so when you get to the 4-year college, you're not driving them crazy. Okay, so and everybody can start on a even stronger. We want them to be on an even stronger base when they transition. So I've seen 2-year colleges be able to do a lot for people who are just trying to find their way.
Great, thank you. Very lovely answer. So I'd like to hear a little bit more from each of you about some of the more like popular or renowned degree programs that you have at your institution. So if you could highlight a few, that would be wonderful. Anyone can start.
I can jump in and start. So at Boston University, we have a pretty wide variety of academic programs. We have about 300 different academic programs on campus currently. So there's a real wide variety of different academic programs for students. Some of our most popular majors, for example, and that main popularity is the sort of number of students pursuing these programs. Right now, really the life sciences, biology specifically is a very popular major on campus. Computer science, economics, international relations, psychology are all among sort of the most popular majors at Boston University. Pre-med is a popular track. Pre-med is not a major for us, but many students at Boston University are thinking about eventually applying to medical school. And, so whether they're majoring in something in the sciences or not, pre-med is popular for us. Now, you also asked about sort of well-known programs. Some of the programs for us that have received recognition nationally are things like our business program. The Question School of Business is certainly, typically pretty highly ranked and receives a lot of recognition. Our engineering programs as well, particularly biomedical engineering, is often well-renowned, well-ranked. The health sciences as well, particularly physical therapy, has gained recognition, as well as our College of Communication. So you can see there's a real wide variety of different academic programs at BU. But when you're exploring colleges, thinking about colleges and thinking about the academic areas that you're interested in, your interests don't necessarily need to be among the most popular or the most renowned, at a college. So what I mean by that is we have some smaller programs at BU that are absolutely fantastic. I'd say the Wheelock College of Education and Human Development has some tremendous programs and opportunities for students, to engage within the city of Boston, which is a unique opportunity there. Our School of Hospitality Administration as well is a smaller program, but creates some really great internship and real world opportunities for students to engage. So I encourage students, as you're thinking about, the colleges that you're considering and you're going through your research process, think about your own interests and your own priorities within certain academic programs, and then research ways that these programs may satisfy your own particular, interests and academic priorities. We are at Boston University also a teaching and research institution. So many students will engage in research on campus. Whether you're interested, again, in the hard sciences or not, there's a wide array of different research opportunities available for undergraduate students, regardless of what you study or regardless of what you major in. There's about $1 million of research funding available through the Undergraduate Research Opportunities Program, specifically for students to pursue their research interests, regardless of the academic area that they're interested in. So I highlight that because if you're a student that's interested in research, regardless of whether or not the major that you're interested in is among the most popular, there are great sort of resources on campus. And those are the type of pieces that, as you're researching your colleges, will help you find those sort of fits for you academically within your interests.
I'll go ahead and answer next. I kind of want to echo that point that Chris was making about the most popular or renowned programs. Like certainly any school, I think, would be very quick to tout their most renowned programs, the programs that people hear of most often. But at schools with like UMass Amherst with over 100 different majors and programs, like that's certainly not going to be something that you need to lock yourself into. There's plenty of programs of study that are going to catch your interest one way or another. So I guess more specifically answer the question, some of our more popular programs are all of our business programs in the Eisenberg School of Management, which continues to climb in rankings as a public undergraduate business program, and also just a best overall business school. I think we've ranked at number 50 a few years ago. We also have computer science, which I guess I would say every year becomes more and more popular, which I think is quite understandable given the state of our our world today, really, and the needs for computer scientists and programmers and things like that. We also have our College of Natural Sciences. So UMass Amherst is also a research institution. It is very easy as an undergraduate to engage in research while you're studying for an undergraduate degree. And I always use the College of Natural Sciences as an example because there are so many different opportunities to work in labs, like hand in hand with professors that are engaging in their own research, or our graduate students that may be assisting professors are also engaging in their own research. We do have a pre-med and pre-health track as part of our College of Natural Sciences. So like BU, it is not its own major, but it is a set of specific course advising and also advising from the staff in that center for pre-med and pre-health. So they'll help you pick a major if you need that and help work with you all the way up through and to and applying for med school once you're at that point. They'll give you a list of courses to take. They'll talk with you about planning for like when to take the courses, when to build in research and things like that. And with with all that being said, I do want to go back to that first point. There are smaller programs that we have that students are definitely going to be interested in, like our linguistics programs, which is internationally recognized, is also one of our smaller departments, but as it is internationally recognized, students have a fantastic experience in that program. And then as well as being in the 5-college area, with Amherst College, Smith College, Mount Holyoke, and Hampshire College, we do have the 5-college consortium. So not necessarily a specific program, but Because we partner with the schools in our area, students are also able to take courses at the other schools and have the credits applied directly to their degree. So if there's perhaps a program that is extremely interesting to you at one of the neighboring schools, you can take full advantage of that and take classes at the other schools and have them, kind of go hand in hand with what you're studying at UMass Amherst. So there's plenty to discover. And kind of going along with that is if there's something that you're extremely interested in that we can offer ourselves, we also do offer the option to kind of construct your own major through our BDIC program. So you work with faculty and other advisors to select courses from across campus to create your own undergraduate program. So that is also a very popular option that students are pursuing these days, especially for students that might be starting off not knowing what they would like to do. So there's that as an option, and there's also all of our exploratory track programs that are meant to kind of, give you a taste of what the school can offer and then get you into the program of your choosing.
From a community college aspect, we have over about 70 programs between degree and certificate. And I think that for us, it's more, we're seeing students, and especially dual enrollment students, really going towards prerequisites for our ADN, our nursing programs, bio, a lot of, as already mentioned, bio, pre-med majors, a lot of liberal arts, because that, of course, is going to allow for the exploration that many people are looking for when they initially come in and they're just new to the whole higher ed situation. So I also look at business. What we have been seeing a lot lately as students interested in the liberal arts, because it fits with what they already have experienced in high school. So they gravitate very, very quickly to that, just for that aspect too. Um, Business transfers, accounting transfers. It's really a pretty eclectic spectrum to be a small college. So we're very, very proud of that. That the mere fact that students keep coming back tells us we're doing something right. So yeah, we have a really good spectrum for people to start with and be able to explore.
Great, thank you. And I think the takeaway here is that each of your schools really caters to a wide range of students, which is great to hear. All right, so my last question is more general, and I can share my screen once again, but it is, how can prospective students learn more about your institution? And feel free to plug any upcoming events, but I can share my screen with some information that you all shared with me. I'll provide some links, email addresses that anyone can reach out to in case they're interested in any of your schools. So hopefully all this information is accurate, but yeah, do any of you have any like upcoming info sessions or open houses that you'd like to talk about? If so, feel free to unmute and go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think probably the most notable event that's coming up are our fall visit days, which are on October 17th and 24th. And there's going to be more of a, like you'd pick your own schedule of events to attend that day rather than having like a schedule made for you. We found that there are a lot of times events that people really want to make it to, and maybe events that are a bit less interesting, but we try to get everyone involved in as many things as possible. But we have our information for that coming very, very soon. We are hosting in-person tours on our campus. You can access all that information from the link that I shared to see our campus. We also have virtual engagement opportunities for folks that might be a little further away, or maybe that's just easier for them in their schedule. Our undergraduate admissions team also hosts our info sessions kind of right before or after our in-person tours. So you can usually come in and schedule yourself for both or just one or the other if you prefer to do those. You can contact any of our offices with the information that's provided on the screen anytime. It's never really too early to start the conversation. We usually at this time are talking to people that are beginning to plan what colleges they're looking at more specifically, and that's a great way to kind of start the process. And also on our admissions website, you'll find a link to join our mailing list, which is the best way to stay connected with us. We send out regular emails with updates and information about upcoming events as they are going to be released. And we're also this year trying to do some events throughout the state. So we'll do things that are a little closer to Boston, things that are more central to Massachusetts, just to kind of catch everybody and also to help with and ease maybe any burdens of traveling, further or across the state to come to one of our events. But once again, the biggest events coming up are our fall visit days on October 17th and 24th. So thank you.
Chris or Diana, do you guys have any events that you want to plug?
Or I can jump in. At Boston University, similar to UMass Amherst, we have tours and information sessions 6 days a week throughout the week and on Saturdays through the fall as well. We also do have a couple of virtual, and those tours and information sessions are in person. We do have a couple of virtual open house programs, 2 at the end of September and 2 coming up in early October as well. Additionally, some of our specific academic programs are hosting their own events to learn more about their specific programs. So for example, the engineering program, the computer science program, business, college communication, international relations are all hosting sort of specific information sessions for students interested in those majors coming up. I also will put a link into the chat where you can access information about opportunities to visit or connect with us virtually. The other piece that I'll mention is throughout the fall, if you're a high school student, look at colleges visiting your high school in the fall, or hosting virtual information sessions for students attending your high school. Throughout the fall, many of us who work in college admissions are out on the road visiting high schools. And so, your school counseling office, your college counseling office, depending on the structure at your school, may have colleges come and visit, or they may be sort of gathering a list of virtual opportunities for you to connect with folks like me who work in college admissions. It's a great opportunity to ask questions about academic programs, financial aid, also the application process as well. We spend a lot of time informing students about how to apply to our colleges, in addition to the other pieces that we've talked about today. So in addition to visiting campuses, which can be a great way to learn about the colleges, also look for us visiting your high schools as well.
Thank you.
As far as GCC, we are in the process of orientations are all online. I'm going to put in a link where students can connect with the ETP coordinator. And so I would suggest that students connect with her to be able to connect online during orientation. We also have our Franklin County Pride Day Parade event that is coming up. And so I want to plug that and say, come on out and hopefully in the sunshine and help us celebrate everybody. Other than that, both Chris and Daryl have kind of connected it with the different departments that can answer a lot more of students' questions, which is always always our admissions team and our financial aid team. So we're all working. It's so interconnected because one thing feeds the other that feeds the other, and students need the whole kaleidoscope. And so all knowing I want students to really know that we do work together to get to a student through each step. We really do. So I would suggest that students connect with orientation, admissions, and they will connect them with orientation and get them started on the ball.
Great, thank you all. I'm gonna stop sharing this. Those are all the questions that I have for you, but I think we have at least one question in the chat. Let me find it. So Bob asks, are any of your institutions involved in any type of systematic outreach to address the elephant in the room, which I believe he's alluding to, the student debt crisis that's happening in this country? And the question reads, preparing recent college graduates for the assumption of student loan payments beginning in February of 2022. And I think this is a really important and valid point to bring up. Student debt really, I think, derails a lot of the financial lives of students when they're coming out of college, and it makes it difficult to really reach those milestones that we think of, like buying a house or investing or saving for retirement. So if any of you have any thoughts about that or anything that you want to address.
Oh, yeah. I'll let Diana go first. I think I've spoken first enough times.
Oh no, that's okay. But I guess from my perch, I'm always looking at the debt of students. As far as it's not just financial aid debt, but it's in addition to. And so when I started and made the comment of always having students be there, helping to teach students or how to learn how to be their own best self advocate includes being your own best self financial manager too. But you have to know your business to be able to understand it and actually work it through and not get yourself in those kind of situations. So I look at a lot of working with students a lot with financial literacy. It's sometimes it's just the fact that it's just not enough to go around, and they're trying to figure out how to make that stretch. And so sometimes it's a stop where you can't. The student might say, I'm not eligible for financial aid. I can only do one class and I'm not really sure how I'm going to pay for that one. That's kind of like where we come in, because we would have the funds to be able to help the student start doing that class, start getting going, and take some of that pressure off, because it's the financial pressure. It's the pressure of feeling there's not enough and I don't see where there's going to be enough. And so when and Chris and Daryl started talking about the different, and myself, endowments and scholarships and programs that help support students to be able to afford college, just to be able to afford it. It's pretty important for them to understand what that bill is and what that bill means, and payment plans and that kind of thing. Because a lot of times students will come to us, our department, because they're not sure about when they have to pay this, or they are, but they can't pay this. And they're not sure, they are so upset about, anxious about getting that bill, that I have to turn around and say, stop, take a breath. There's this thing called payment plans. Let's look at what your options are. So it's very, very important to me that when we don't actually formally have it, but I do it as part of my counseling and advising, to understand some financial literacy, especially around their credit, because when people are entrepreneur majors, And then they find out that the very things you're talking about, getting a business, starting a business, all of these things come back to their credit and having to understand how that works. So I just keep on saying the same mantra, know your academic business.
Absolutely, to everything that you just shared. At UMass, not to my knowledge, is there like a formal outreach program for students that have already graduated to give them the news that their student loan payments are going to start back up again in early 2022. That wouldn't be a bad idea at all to do. So like I'm definitely going to take that back to my office because I think it's important, especially with the absolutely ridiculous levels of student loan debt in our country. What we try to emphasize with students as we work through them during their time at UMass, and we start this as even before they apply. So our undergraduate admissions office has a workshop series to help students apply to college, but also there's a financial aid workshop that we lead to kind of expose students to like certain terms they're going to hear, into the idea of like, what's the financial aid timeline look like? Like, what am I supposed to expect at every point of the year to help them prepare to make the transition from high school into college, or from a 2-year school into college, because a lot of schools do things very, very differently. And sometimes that can be confusing, but just the fact of going right from high school into having to pay quite a lot of money to go to school in some cases, or just seeing really big numbers, even though you might not be paying them yourself, like maybe scholarships are helping. We try to start the conversation with them early. When we're working with our students, especially seniors, we do emphasize that students can come back to us at any point with questions, and a lot of students do. So like maybe like a year or two out, students come back and they talk to us about different payment plan options for paying back their student loans, because there isn't just one option for doing that. And even though they're not currently enrolled, like we're happy to go through all of that with them, talk to them about their options. There's different calculators out there that we do. So I would say like pretty much in the vein of financial literacy, but different ways of looking at like, all right, what can I actually afford with my means? Like what can I pay for while I'm in school? What can I pay for when I'm going to be out of school? And how do I tackle that? So we also have a program called Smart About Money that does different workshops and events throughout the entire year on that exact topic, like financial literacy. So that's out of our Bursar's office doing student billing, but we usually collaborate with them on that, just because it helps to have more people in that conversation than less. You never want to get like just one part of the picture, and there's certainly a lot to discuss. So we try to keep the conversation going pretty much with the students, and we understand that it can sometimes be very overwhelming to the point where maybe a student's not reaching out at all, like, and they have kind of like a crisis going on, or they have questions going on. So we also build in during different times of the year outreach efforts to contact students that we're seeing, like maybe there's like a yellow flag or a red flag going on, and we're like, wait a minute, what's happening with the student? So we try to do as much as we can, but that specific point that Bob mentioned, I think is a really great one, to just notify students that things are happening. We know that the federal loan servicers will do that, but having more people do that outreach wouldn't hurt.
Those are both great answers. I don't know that I have a ton to add. I'll say that like UMass Boston University does have workshops available. We call it Smart Money 101 for students to build that financial literacy. We also do entrance and exit counseling through our financial aid office for students to really fully understand the impact, both their financial aid package, but then if they did, take out any loans, what that means for them as they're graduating. But I think another important point for families is, as you're researching colleges, think about your academic fit, think about your social fit, also think about the financial fit of different institutions. I think, at Boston University, again, as a private university, the cost of attending is relatively high compared to a lot of universities out there. Some students fall in love with BU or other private universities, but they need to look at colleges that would also be a good financial, fit for them as well. Now, if students are receiving financial aid, the cost of attending BU may be the same as other colleges, but when you're applying, think about the wide range of different colleges that are out there and ones that might be social and a financial fit as well. Additionally, it is important for families as they're thinking about college to talk about the financial realities of applying and attending college, in what role that may play in your ultimate decision-making process. If a family has set a hard cap on how much money they'll pay for education, and Boston University, for example, is more expensive than that. It's important for the family and the student to understand that early on, and then they can research colleges and continue to look at options that would also be, a good financial fit for your family. So I encourage those conversations early in the college research process, and to find colleges that are good academic, social, as well as financial fit for your family.
Great, thank you all. Oh, yes, Diana.
I just, Chris reminded me of something when he said that. I was thinking also, if while students are in high school, if you have hobbies, if you are a part of any kind of special groups, look for professional associations in industries with those groups, because they have student memberships that are little than nothing compared to the full professional level, and you're being exposed to mentorship in the industry, experience in the industry, but also money in the industry, because there are a lot of professional associations that also have scholarships. So if you're, I'm a member of the American Health Mental Health Counselors Association, but they also have scholarships, and they also have, different learning opportunities. But for students transitioning into college, if your hobby has a professional association with it, look it up and see where that's a pot of wealth and knowledge and wisdom and mentoring that you can also get as you're coming towards, and they will help you to guide you towards college too. So something to keep in mind.
We've got another follow-up question related to student debt. And essentially the question asks, a lot of graduates are kind of unfamiliar with how much they have in payments and how their loans are divided up, whether they're private or public. So why not institutionalize a financial literacy program for graduating seniors to kind of walk them through the process of fully understanding their debt, including the, like I said, portfolio of private versus federal loans and how to navigate repayment.
I think it's a great idea, honestly. I think every school should have a program that does that. At UMass, I would say that's not something we have 100%, but I think we have pieces of it that could certainly be improved. We have, I forget what we call it. I think it's just like a record of a student loan debt that we make accessible to students when they actually go into our student information system to look at their financial aid. So it's there every year. And we try to point that out in conversations, especially where students are talking to us about maybe just one semester saying, I'm concerned about student loan debt. That's a great pivot point for us to be able to say, well, let's look at your student loan debt. Let's see how much you've actually borrowed up to this point. So that information we keep available for students at all points of their academic career at UMass. And like BU, we also require the exit counseling for students. So that's also a very good opportunity to sit down with students and go over pretty much everything they've borrowed from A to Z. Make sure they understand who their federal loan servicers are, make sure they know how to contact them. A lot of times throughout school, the services are contacting students, but if they don't know who that is, like they wouldn't necessarily pay attention to the notice or the email. So kind of putting the information out there whenever it is that we can. Sometimes we're invited to different events on campus that like the college student version of a professional association might be hosting, where they're talking about student loan planning or financial planning, and we emphasize that there. But I agree that that is a good thing to institutionalize. I'm sure every school is going to have their challenges with putting together a program like that, but it's not something that's impossible. So I think it is on all of us in higher education to be aware of the problems that students are facing, not only when they're in school, but when they get out of it, and student loan debt being the biggest, in my opinion. So I think that's a great point. But that's I guess what we're doing at UMass as of the current year.
Great, thank you. And yeah, I agree with that. Exit counseling is a very good first step. It would be great to have a program like this, but I know for me personally, exit counseling really helped me have a good big picture sense of what I was dealing with after I graduated. I think those are all the audience questions that we had, and that concludes our panel. So thank you all again for coming today. It was incredibly informative, and I hope that once this is recorded and uploaded to YouTube, it continues to help students and parents navigate paying for college and finding the right programs for their students. So thank you all for being here. Our next Money Talk is in a couple of weeks, actually 2 weeks from today at noon once again, and it will also be related to college, but particularly how to survive college in partnership with Leadership Brainery. So I hope to see you all then. Thank you and take care.